Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to my guest. Today we have Rachel Goclawski. Rachel is a naturalist and also a Massachusetts certified educator in education. We've got that all right. Welcome, Rachel. You call your business Cooking with Mrs. G.
Yep.
Tell us what this is all about.
Well, I teach foraging for wild foods, and I also teach some mushrooming classes and herbalism. So it's just sort of trying to get us all educated in things that we used to know centuries ago that was common knowledge, and it's very useful, and we really need it incorporated into our diet.
How did you get into this?
Well, I've been interested in foraging since I was really young. As long as I can remember, I was always tasting weeds and things like that, and kids thought I was a little weird, but I really was always experimenting.
You're curious.
Yes,
Yeah.
Very curious. I was always interested in survival skills, self-reliance skills. So it's just pretty much something I've been doing all my life.
Yeah.
Once I had kids of my own and things came up that I needed to, research, I got a lot more interested because there's just so much valuable food and herbs out there, and the more I discovered, the more I needed to find out.
That's good. Now you're a certified educator, a teacher. Where do you teach in secondary school or second grade? Which did you say?
Well, I was a teacher a while ago, and now I've been a U.S. Army IT specialist for the last, I think, 17 years. So I started teaching computers, and that got me into the Army. And I was stationed up at Fort Devens and in the middle of the woods, and there was just so much food to discover there. I was there for 7 years, so I really had awesome lunch times up there researching and finding things.
So do you actually go into the woods themselves to find all these things? And you know what is poisonous and what isn't, right?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. And I teach my students. If there's poisonous lookalikes, we examine those. We figure out how to tell the difference between a poisonous plant and a useful plant.
Cooking with Mrs. G. Do you have classes?
Yes, I do.
Where do you do that?
Right now, we've moved to Millbury a year ago, so now I am teaching at Waters Farm in Sutton, and I teach there about once a month, but I also teach for the Museum of Natural History on Cape Cod, so this summer and fall I'm teaching a few times there, and I teach through the Sudbury Valley Trustees. I am a programmer for the Eastern Massachusetts and Central Massachusetts Girl Scouts, so I teach a lot at their camps. And I might teach in some other towns here and there if your club or organization would like to have me come out. I do go to different towns in Massachusetts.
That's good. Now, show us some of the things you brought with us.
Okay. Well, I have brought some things that are in season that you can pick right now and enjoy. So the first thing I'm going to show you is an edible flower. Not all flowers are edible.
Isn't that right in the backyard?
Yes,
Right.
this
What
is a
that?
really common flower. This is a daylily, and this is actually the original daylily that was brought over from Asia as a garden ornamental, decades and decades ago, probably centuries ago. So you'll notice that it has an orange color. You might see some other varieties of daylilies that we've cultivated over the years. This is really the only one that you want to eat because some of those cultivated daylilies have some substances in them that are not good for your body. So when I teach this, I say, look for the orange daylily. And isn't it the same kind of orange that a carrot is?
How would you cook it?
So this, the flower itself, you would eat, just eat the petals raw. They taste like a very sweet, delicious lettuce. These pods, you might recognize these from some Chinese food dishes. They usually pick the pods when they're a little smaller. And you can saute these. You can put the pods in, a rice dish. They taste a little bit oniony and sweet. They're very, very delicious. And at other times of the year, this is one of those wild foods that just, it's a gift that keeps giving, because you can pretty much find an edible part of this plant.
Is that just spring
at
or
any
summer?
time of the year?
What do you think?
So this is blooming right now. So I'd say the end of June these start blooming, and all through July. And they only bloom for a day. And you can also get the, once the day has gone by, because it only blooms for a day, you can collect these day-old ones, and they will reconstitute in soups and stews for you, and they're perfectly edible, a day-old. And then the tubers, you can collect, dig for the tubers in the wintertime even. So anytime from late fall to early spring, you can collect the tubers. They taste a little bit like sweet potatoes. And when the shoots come up, those are the long green leaves that are come up from the ground surrounding the stem. When they're just shoots, you can cut those off. And you don't want to eat one? I got one for you.
No, it's okay. I just had breakfast.
You don't want to eat on TV. But so the shoots are also a really delicious green that you can saute up a little bit. And again, a little bit oniony, right? And
you put it in a salad, right?
Yeah, and it makes a salad look beautiful. And it's got beta carotene, just like carrots. So think carrot, you're going to look for that carrot color daylily with a little bit of the red inside. That's the original orange Asian daylily, not like the tiger lily or any of those other species.
Nice.
And no leaves on the stem. You're going to look for the ones that have the stem with no leaves. Some of those varieties have the leaves that that wouldn't be the correct one. Okay.
Rachel, you were going to show us, you had which one did you pick? You were going to hold that up for us so that the audience can have an idea of what you do. You were going to pick one of these and hold it up, were you?
Oh, like one of the things that I make? Okay, so you can make a lot of things from the wild herbs and wild food that you find around. One of the things that I make is red clover jelly, speaking of flowers. So you collect the red clover, and actually red clover, studies have shown that red clover can inhibit the reproductive growth hormone in some certain cancer cells. Along with, it's got other nutrients that are useful for us. It's great for menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, and it makes a delicious jelly. So believe it or not, you can make jelly out of wildflowers, and I have some here.
Is it hard to do?
It's actually not that hard. You just have to collect a lot of flowers. So
red clover tea. Wow.
Yeah, so you make a tea out of it, actually.
Great.
And so it's just like if you were going to make a grape jelly, you would have a liquid, the grape jelly you would make from the grape juice. So it's just like if you had grape juice, instead you're making tea out of these flowers. And you can see the beautiful color. Only the red clover has the cancer-fighting properties. The white clover, you can make jelly out of white clover, and you'll end up with like a white or yellow looking jelly. It doesn't have the cancer fighting qualities, but it still has some nutrients in it.
She brought in a bunch of things, and when I saw the leaves, show us what the leaves are.
Oh, these guys. This is opium lettuce, and there's no opium in it at all. So the reason why it got this nickname, this is actually just spiny lettuce. The reason why I got the nickname opium lettuce is because it has a really, really strong pain-fighting qualities, anti-inflammatory and pain-fighting qualities. So this is a lettuce that ends up growing about 4 feet tall. And
where does it grow? Where do we find it?
Everywhere. That's the thing with all this food. Everyone is always excited in my classes because they can't believe how much wild food and nutritious herbs and mushrooms are out there, just like in a parking lot. So we just dry this out, and it's easy to dry herbs like the flowers and things like that. You
mix it with salad?
Yeah, dry them out. Yeah, you could. The spiny lettuce tastes better when it's first emerging in the spring, when it's young, and that's like a wild lettuce to eat. But then the latex inside, it's like the sap. That's what really has the pain-fighting qualities. And so, with this day and age, with the opioid epidemic, people getting hooked on painkillers, things like that, I really like to educate on this and say, hey, this is actually a real medicine. So when we talk about real medicines, I don't advocate treating yourself for any conditions or trying to diagnose yourself. You want to work with a licensed healthcare practitioner. You don't want to just start taking a bunch of these herbs because they really have real medicine in them. A lot of our medicines originate from herbs. So, and some of them are still made from herbs. So you want to, work with a healthcare professional. I don't recommend treating any serious health condition with wild herbs. You can, supplement. It's great for prevention.
We're talking with Rachel Goclawski, and she's a naturalist and in Massachusetts, a certified educator. And how can they reach you? Cooking with Mrs. G.
Oh, yeah. So I have a bunch of different ways that you can visit me online. I have, I can zoom in, I don't know.
Now, can you really see that, Paul? Can you zero in on that?
I
If not,
do the big
we'll
one.
say it verbally. If not.
Okay.
Can you get through that? Right there, on Facebook, and what are the other two below it?
So I'm on Facebook, which is the best way to reach me. Even if you don't have Facebook, you can always visit my site. Also, Etsy, and everything's Cooking with Mrs. G. So Facebook is Cooking with Mrs. G. Etsy's Cooking with Mrs. G. Etsy, I just have some of my products. I don't. I usually just sell them at my classes or at craft fairs and things. And lastly is my YouTube channel. I know it's a really crazy long YouTube channel, but I do have a YouTube channel, and I have links to that on my Facebook as well.
Well, she'll also be on YouTube, having been on Be My Guest, so as every guest is. So you'll be watching for that, too.
And I'll put it on my Facebook.
Also locally on uptoma.gov. You'll see that, YouTube. You'll be all over the lot. So, now, Rachel, show us some more of your great food there.
Oh, okay, great. So, now this is my solve. And
It's not food, it's paper.
yeah, so this just talks about my solve. This is one of the most remarkable couple of plants that I've ever come across. Jewelweed actually neutralizes the oils in poison ivy. So instead of just trying to wipe it off, wash it off with Dawn, this actually destroys the oily antigen urushiol in poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. But another awesome thing about jewelweed is it is very effective on eczema. And my little girls, when they were toddlers, they had the worst eczema around their mouths, and I got prescribed steroids for them, and I didn't want to put steroids around their mouths. So when I discovered this plant, I really was very excited about it. So I make this for my own family, and then any extras that I have, friends, everybody that has eczema that has tried this contacts me and asks for more. So it's good. It also has a plant that's good for bee stings, which is plantain, and that will take care of your bee sting in about 15 minutes.
I've heard about plantain and bee stings. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so I tried to make like a multi-purpose first aid solve so we can cover even cuts and scrapes and burns. It disinfects and helps heal your skin. So this is that.
How about acne, people who get that? Anything you can suggest?
Well, acne, you want to use anti-inflammatory type herbs. That's why we have witch hazel and things like that. So for acne, really, you know what? This is the best thing you can have for your skin, a stinging nettle.
What is it? I can't see what you're talking about.
Stinging nettle.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So stinging nettle, what this does is it acts as like, it cleanses your whole system. And one of the best organs that it works on is your skin. And when I take stinging nettle as a tea or I, eat it, yes, it does sting when you pick it. So you're going to need some gloves.
Nettles that hurt when you touch them in
yes,
the
and then they sting. They call it 7-minute itch because
Yeah.
for 7 minutes at least it's going to sting you and it's going to be itchy.
Is it that round plant and then has the little thing sticking out of it, tiny little thing, and it hurts when you try to go pick it? It's like a
Yeah.
little round thing, on a stem, and then it has those little prickers all over it. Is that the nettle?
Well, it's kind of tall and it has a squarish stem, and at this time of year it's flowering and making seeds, so it has a bunch of these stringy things dangling off the top of it. And if you dry it though, the sting goes away. So what I do is I dry it, I take it off the stems because the stems still have kind of needles on them, And then,
wow.
and then I, cut it up, and it is actually a very delicious tea.
Reminds me of witch hazel.
Yeah, so this is also great for diabetics. It helps your body to create more insulin. It's good for osteoarthritis. So a lot of herbal practitioners, licensed herbal practitioners, will prescribe this to people with allergies because it also has a natural antihistamine in it. So this is one of the most remarkable herbs, and it's also edible. It tastes great as long as you get it before it flowers. A lot of plants, once they flower, they don't taste good anymore. So it makes awesome quiche, pesto. I will, if you steam it for 2 minutes, the sting goes away. And then, again, you remove the leaves from the stem. You can throw it in with pasta, with baked potato. It's really good. So, yeah. It's a lot of fun stuff that you can make. If you do get into foraging, there's a wealth of information online. Just make sure that you're getting your information from a reputable source. And you can find recipes. You can find all kinds of ways to make jellies and salves and teas and things like that. I found a lot of these things online, and then I will take the recipes and change them according to my needs.
Rachel, where do people go to take your classes?
Oh, you can go to Waters Farm. I will be teaching next week. I don't know if this will come out in time, but I have another introduction to mushrooming class on July 19th. And I'll be adding a summer foraging class at Waters Farm in August. And like I said, I'm going to be at the Museum of Natural History in Brewster, Massachusetts for August 13th. And then also in September, I'm going to be teaching a mushrooming series. So I'll be there twice in September. If you go to my Facebook/events, or if you visit my Facebook page, you'll see the events link. I list all my classes there.
Rachel, do people actually go on a tour through the woods with you and you show them different things?
Yeah. So we'll go on a foraging walk. I usually don't do a lecture for foraging. The lecture kind of we'll stop at each plant and I'll talk about it. Now, my mushrooming class, though, I do an hour lecture beforehand because it's mushrooming and there are risks involved in finding mushrooms. There's also risks involved in finding poisonous plants. So but the whole point, what's really great about foraging is that it doesn't matter whether you're 3 years old or 103. There's so much to learn, and it involves all 5 of your senses. You see the plant, you can smell the plant. Actually, smelling is a great way to identify some things.
I would know that it smells like witch hazel.
Yeah.
I would know.
Yeah, smelling it can be a way to help you identify things like to tell the difference between wild carrot and poison hemlock.
Yeah.
Now they look similar, especially the flowers. So one of the ways you can tell the difference is if you crush wild carrot leaves, they smell like carrots. Okay. So that is one way that you can differentiate. So when it involves all 5 of our senses, pretty much anybody can learn it. I find kids with learning disabilities are still able to pay attention and really learn. So kids with special needs, I have both of my children have special needs, and this is just something because it's just such a human way to learn when you're outdoors and you're getting your kids out and you're involving all of their senses when they're learning. It really, just about anybody can learn and enjoy this.
Rachel, what would you advise for people who are, like myself, extremely prone? I know you mentioned one of them, poison ivy. And mine ended up as impetigo when I was 10 years old. Oh. It just morphed on my. I had to wear a hairnet. It was terrible. Is there anything why do some people get it and others don't? A friend of mine walks right through it. She's fine.
I used to be that way. I used to be able to walk through it. But when I was nursing my daughter, your cortisone level goes down in your body when you're nursing. And I repeatedly walked through poison ivy for 2 weeks straight picking raspberries because I didn't care. I thought, I can just pick these. And I got, the raspberries actually scratched me, so the poison ivy got into my bloodstream. And so I went to the dermatologist, and it was coming up on my chest, it was coming up on my back, and they had to give me steroids.
Itching, yes.
And the steroids couldn't come in contact with my infant.
No.
And that's actually when I discovered the Jewelweed, and that's, I made the salves and things. Jewelweed, yeah, Jewelweed.
Okay.
I think, well, it's too tiny on here for you. But that's when I started making the salves and the soaps. So I would say if you're really allergic, you need to know what it looks like, because poison ivy looks very different at different times of the year. In the spring, the leaves are small and they're red and shiny. At this time of the year, they can be like this big and red and green. They have white berries. And
they have berries?
Yeah, white berries.
I didn't know they had a family. I thought they were just that shiny leaf.
Yeah, and they're not too shiny at this time of year either. And they can have a mitten on them. I do have like an ID sheet that I didn't bring with me on poison ivy that shows how different it looks over the different times of the year. And people don't realize it's a vine, so it will go up a tree. It can be like 100 feet up in a tree. So I've had people foraging, for nuts and things, and I'm like, watch out, because the poison ivy vine is actually up in the tree and going out on the branches.
So much for making a tree fort. I guess I won't be doing that anytime soon.
Yeah, so if you can recognize it, you'll recognize the hairy vine and going up the tree. And if you cut that hairy vine, keep in mind that the oils on that vine are still viable for 3 years.
How can you cut those oils, Rachel? How do you cut the oils, make sure that they're not there anymore?
Well, you have to, if you cut the vine and you're not going to remove it from the tree, stay away from the tree for 3 years or even more.
My gosh. Now, Rachel, you started this when you were a child. You're interested in this. Now, having gone to school to become a teacher, college, you had it all the way through? You were doing this still on the side besides being a teacher?
Well, I've been teaching this, I've been teaching it formally, I think for about 6 years. So, at different times in my life, it kind of took the back burner. I had other things that I was doing in my life, but and also, and it's a shame because this is what happens in our society. As I got older, and I had more and more adults telling me, "Don't taste that. You don't touch that. That's poisonous." Eventually, I stopped, experimenting and things, and I really wish that I didn't let that discourage me. So that's one of the reasons why I teach this, is so that we don't have all these misconceptions about weeds. And,
that's great.
And eating
so
it.
So you're going to be at Waters Farm, and that's next week. What's the date again?
The 19th. So a week from now. So it's Thursday, the 19th at 6 p.m., 6 to 8 p.m. And I have on my Facebook, I have the ticket link, or you can always email me, because it fills up. All my classes tend to fill up. I usually have about 25 spots, and they fill every time. Because I really, as a full-time working mom, I can only teach, once or twice a month. So my classes end up filling up.
How many can you have in your class?
I'll take up to 25.
They have to register, pre-register.
Yes.
Is it free or is there a fee?
Well, this one is $25 a person.
The one at Waters?
Yep.
Okay.
But sometimes when I teach through a group, like last night I taught for Sudbury Valley Trustees, and if you were a Sudbury Valley Trustees member, it was free. If not, it was only $10. So, if I'm hired by a group, I will charge a group rate. If you're a nonprofit, I usually end up charging much less. But again, like I said, my schedule fills up, and I don't have a lot of time to teach classes.
Rachel, can the adults bring their children too to learn, or is this just for adults?
Yeah, so my foraging, you can bring kids as young as 6 years old.
Okay.
For mushrooming, I cut it off at 12 because it's mushrooms, and they need to be old enough to really understand the nuances of how to identify
When I go out
them.
to eat, I always worry. I'm always afraid to eat. I'll pick the mushrooms out of it, or even on, order in. I just have a thing about worrying about mushroom safety. Always have.
There's rules of thumb with collecting mushrooms, and there's a way to stay safe. So in my introductory classes, we stick to the safest classes of mushrooms that are the easiest to identify, that don't have any poisonous lookalikes. So I teach how to recognize those, and how to recognize the classes of mushrooms that have poisonous species within them, and just stay away from that whole class of mushrooms.
We're talking again with Rachel Goclawski. She's a naturalist, and she's also a certified educator in Massachusetts. Cooking with Mrs. G. Before we close, show us a couple more things.
Sure.
She brought a whole almost like the
Yeah,
whole
I brought a
kitchen.
bunch of stuff here because you never know what people are interested in. So
There you
this is a reishi mushroom, and it's not in great shape because we are now at the end of the hemlock reishi season.
Wow.
And I make a tincture, a wild mushroom tincture, out of reishi and turkey tail and birch polypore, which is similar to chaga and its benefits, and maitake, which is hen of the woods. So the tincture, it helps you. It helps you in a lot of ways, but reishi, let's just stick to the reishi because there's a lot of different benefits to reishi. It's edible at a really young stage, but you want to put it in soups and stews because it's not like an eating mushroom.
What
It's
makes
more,
it so red and yellow and orange?
Oh, this is the resinous surface of this is
Yeah.
because it's a hemlock reishi. So
Is that
some of
grown
the other
around here
species.
too, Rachel? I never
Yes,
see
it
that.
does.
I
Yeah.
never see one.
So you want to go to a hemlock forest to
Yeah.
find this. The more hemlock, the better chance that you're going to find it. And these can grow to be huge.
There you go.
Like on my Facebook, this is my picture right now, and so you can see how huge they can
Huge.
get.
Are those your children?
Yeah, so these are my two girls.
Those are. Can you get that, Paul? That's how big these mushrooms get.
Yeah, they can get pretty
And they're
huge.
edible too.
Yeah, they're
So-
edible. At this stage, they're just going to be medicinal because they're going to be too tough. But
Yeah.
when they're first emerging and they're just like a little knobby nose on the
Can
tree,
you pick
they're
them up and literally, Rachel, eat them?
You never want to eat a wild mushroom raw. Because sometimes there's like morels, they have a compound in them that is that's poisonous, but in 5 minutes it will cook off.
Do you boil it or fry it? How do you do it?
So these would be a soup and stew kind of mushroom, and the edible ones, you can saute them, you can grill them, a number of different ways. Any ways that you would cook a button mushroom or a shiitake mushroom or a portobello mushroom.
It's pretty. It's almost a
Yeah.
work of art. We have about 4
Yeah.
minutes left. Find us one more thing here.
Okay.
This is great.
So
It looks like it's something you see. It's
let's do
beautiful at
this.
an art show exhibit.
Yeah, there's a couple more things. There's a really fun. Okay, so this is a really common invasive. Now, there's a lot of invasive plants. That means that they're not from the United States or from our area, and so it's really sustainable and good for the environment
What
to
is it,
collect
Rachel?
these.
Looks
This
familiar.
is purslane.
Yeah.
It's a very, very common invasive weed, and it has omega-3s in it. It's very tangy and delicious.
You can eat it right off of it?
Yeah, you can just take one of these little paddles. Notice that they have very fleshy paddles. Almost looks like a succulent plant.
Looks rubbery. almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
we wouldn't
yeah.
really eat this.
Yeah.
Like you can make pickles out of the really rubbery part,
Yeah.
And I'll eat the little stems. So good, sautéed with a little olive oil and soy sauce, and tossed in with maybe a little chicken or mushrooms if you're a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And it also has a lot of vitamin A. It's almost like a multivitamin. It has a lot of other vitamins
Is
in
that
it.
how they make our vitamins? Why a lot of from plants? You think?
I wish that's
No,
how.
not quite,
But
huh?
yeah, a lot of our vitamins are just made in the lab. But you can get plant-based vitamins at like a vitamin shop or something.
Sure, yeah.
But this one is like eating a multivitamin. We really shouldn't be relying on multivitamins for our vitamins. We should be eating our vitamins, and wild food has thousands of times higher concentration of some vitamins.
Okay.
So this is actually the omega-3 here is higher than most fish oils.
Kind of rubbery too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is great for fighting ADHD and autism in children. Omega-3s. You want to up the intake from the youngest age possible. As soon as they can start eating, you want to up the intake of.
Rachel, you've got
omega-3s.
about a minute left. Again, let
Yeah.
them know how they can reach you.
Okay. Yeah. So there's so much. It's so much fun.
So she's got classes to go to, Cooking with Mrs.
Yeah.
G, and she's going to tell you again how to reach her.
Okay, so the best way to reach me again is on Facebook, and again, you don't have to have Facebook to view my website. So my Facebook page actually acts as a website. You could click events and look at my class list. I also have a link to Etsy on there. I don't really sell a lot of products, but you can also visit me on Etsy, and you can email me, message me through Facebook. You can message me at Goclawski@msn.com as well. Okay.
Very good. So this is great. So you can get in touch with her. You can go to her classes, learn a lot. I just learned it in half an hour. Well, a lot about our natural things. And thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks so much for having
Welcome.
me. It was
That's great.
Awesome. It was a lot
She's
of
got
fun.
a lot of, brought half of her pantry with her. We'll see you next time with me, my guest.